All right, another new Monday morning, bright new Monday. Karibuni sana. This is the Morning Cafe. A great start to the week. A lot happening this week, and of course, we'll be here to bring it all to you. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. How hot is the coffee where you are?
And I'm used to Stanley Nyaringita. You're about to have a marvelous Monday morning. In case this is your first time here, Upper Wavy Morning Cafe, going to be with you all the way until Friday, from 6 a.m. to till 10 a.m. We start the Monday with the power panel.
Oh yes, State of the Nation. Philip Kisia, Kipruto Arapkirwa, Honorable Dr. Mumbingaru, and Samuel Pogisio, our power panel every morning, every Monday morning. You don't want to miss that conversation. A lot to discuss. It has been a very busy weekend, and also what happened last week. There's a lot to talk about. Yes. So do stand by for that.
Coming up at 8 a.m., conversations on health, prostate cancer awareness. We have that very sticky conversation that, again, men really don't always want to have, but then we'll definitely be having it. Just to even understand it, Dr. Rajesh Chothari is a consultant urologist and andrologist at Jalram Hospital. So I'll be just breaking the numbers and getting the facts clear. And then later on, maneno ya mental health kidogo, ice bath.
Ice bath.
Na hii baridi.
Na hii baridi yote.
Inatuliza akili vizuri. Inatuliza akili vizuri. Dr. Hamisi Kote Ali is the director, founder the Human Garage Group.
You know, I've seen people do that challenge.
Yeah.
Where you enter a drum full of ice, and I've always thought it's just about fun. So it has benefits.
It has benefits. It goes all the way to the Greek histories and all that. So ni kitu imekuwa ikifanyika. To the headlines now. To fire or keep, Ruto's cabinet dilemma is the big headline on the Standard.
Oh yes, discussions around the cabinet still making headlines. Will he fire or not? That's the Standard this morning. The next paper, the Daily Nation. Inside MPs vote to grab state tenders. Watu wanataka kuchokoza Gen Z tena. As a big headline on the Daily Nation. We'll be looking at it later on.
Ruto bado hapumui.
Habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo, Ruto bado hapumui.
On People Daily, 30,000 to exit public service.
It's a worrying headline there.
Ile directive ya President William Ruto on Friday.
But 30,000 is quite a huge number.
Oh yes.
Of course, we'll be checking that as well.
On the Star revealed the financial mess at Hustler Fund. Hey,
you know,
get ready. These
are not the kind of headlines that Gen Zs want to see. But yes, that's on the front page of the Star, which is interesting as well.
Oh yes. Jana tulikuwa Uhuru Park. Well, I wasn't there, but then highly represented. And these are the kind of things that just pump up our energy.
Let's take a look at what's happening in matters business. IMF may delay approval of fresh funding to Kenya. Why? Because finance bill was withdrawn.
Oh, yes.
So that's a big headline in matters business. How will that affect you?
Across the borders, winners and losers in Uganda's new oil deal. They say Uganda's National Oil Corporation received its first fuel cargo, marking a new era of energy independence, cutting off cartels, but prices are unlikely to change. They also have a photo there of President William Ruto. They say subdued Ruto crafts painful austerity plan.
All right, that's the regional paper, the East African. Let's cross over to Uganda. Matters Education making the big headline in Uganda this morning on the Daily Monitor. Education that pays. They say that with old secondary school curriculum long decried as delivering theoretical knowledge and unemployable graduates, the government may finally be on the right track with a teaching method that empowers all-level students to cash in on their skills. Some are already making money from skills gained over the past years. This is a special report. It's on pages 8 and 9 of the Daily Monitor. Matters Education making big news in Uganda. And this debate has also been in Kenya at some point, whether or not the curriculum really helps. That's why they moved from 844. We actually moved from 844 to CBC. It is what they're considering to do in Uganda now.
All right. A very interesting headline. Iko pale juu, maswala ya matoke. Because I love matoke, I love to mention it.
What is in your matoke?
What is in your matoke?
And you see they have the double O.
On the front page of New Vision, Matters Education still making big news. They say there are ghosts in education, says Museveni. Ministers to submit a report on capitation grants and teachers as well. Education matters are always given a huge frontline when it comes to Uganda, so that is to be expected. From Uganda all the way to Tanzania, kwenye gazeti la Mwananchi,
idadi madaktari kijiweni ya shtua. Wanasema nini? Wadau sekta ya afya wamulika hali ilivyo hospitalini, gharama za kuwapata, kuacha ujuzi ukikeketea, masuala ya afya pale. Lakini pale chini kuna habari ambayo imeangaziwa pale chini, masuala wanasema vifo kutoweka vyazua hofu kwa watumishi sekta ya afya. So they're talking about abductions and deaths resulting from those abductions affecting medical officers as well. It is similar to what we are complaining about in Kenya today.
And finally, still in Tanzania, the front page of the Citizen, while land disputes dominate complaints to legal aid team, the land disputes in various forms are at the center of 4 in every 10 matters reported to the Mama Samia Legal Aid campaign since the initiative was launched in April 2023. And well, that is the big news there. Also, Bank of Tanzania wants microfinance institutions on interest rates. That is, in a nutshell, what is happening there. From maswala ya gazetini, the headlines, to the traffic.
All right, and traffic situation in Nairobi today, a bit of a problem there when you, around Capital Center, if you could just expand that a bit. And this is on Mombasa Road, that area next to Capital Center, probably because I know that's where there's an exit and an entry into the Nairobi Expressway. But right opposite Capital Center on your way to town, there seems to be a problem there, a bit slow traffic. So if at all you're using that road, well, beware.
Right. Let's zoom out and see other trouble areas. So that is Mombasa Road.
Jogoo Road, I can see, yes. Jogoo Road building up already at Makadara, the usual.
Yes.
And once you
after
leave that
roundabout.
The roundabout next to St. Stephen's Jogoo Road, there's a snarl up there, and I wonder what that is. There could be an incident. That is unusual. That is not something usual in as far as Jogoo Road traffic is concerned. So there could be an incident. Beware as well.
Right. Other areas that you also need to take a look at. In Barabaragani, it has already some yellow
that's Ngong Road.
spots.
Ngong Road a bit slow this morning. And then that's the Southern Bypass as well. The Southern Bypass appears to be quite slow going up towards Kikuyu. Yes.
And well, finally, let's take a look at Thika Road. Thika Road in Akanywe, getting all the way from Githurai, Kingia, and then Azizubin, Kipata, just after the Muthaiga roundabout.
Yes, normal traffic at the Pangani interchange, that is expected. It's building up. That's a bottleneck for Kiambu Road and Thika Road, but nothing to worry about.
Oh, yes.
That's the traffic situation this morning.
Right. Tuone kama tutaangalia weather hapa hivi haraka haraka. And just to tell you, one thing about the weather updates is it always tells you what you're going to be wearing that day. When you're coming in, the weather update in most parts of the country are actually looking very wet. Similarly, we're not going to be by Friday. It's going to be raining in the weekend. Yes. And that is how things are going to be looking like this morning in parts of Nairobi. Expect warm conditions in the morning, and then after that, it goes to precipitation of 90%. This is very high chances of it raining in the day today in Nairobi. So kindly, if you're leaving the house this morning, make sure that you wear that jacket, have that umbrella on. So because it is going to be raining, chances of it raining is very high. Another place that you also need to be very wary of, tuangalie mahali kama uko Lake region in parts of Kisumu, tuone how things are. 19 degrees Celsius at the moment, and similarly like Nairobi, it is warm temperatures until midday. Then after that, expect heavy rainfall as high as 50%. That's quite high. Temperatures ikibakia 25 degrees Celsius. Eneo unaonanga inanyesha na bado kuna dalili ya jua kidogo tu. That is in a nutshell how things are looking like. From weather updates, just tell you what is going to be expected in our news diary. First of all, we do expect on maswala ya afya. So first of all, in our news diary, on the first page, The Kenya Medical and Practitioners and Pharmacists and Dentists Union has scheduled a sit-in to the Ministry of Health titled Occupy MOH. So this follows the lapse of 60 days where intern doctors were supposed to collect the internship letters. According to KMPDU, the intern doctors will be ready to collect their letters in compliance with the return to work formula by the court. And the KMPDU doctors are expected to be joined by Gen Z protesters. And from that to court matters, and the whole Okoth-Obado case is expected to continue today. And so this is despite the completion of the civil case of former Migori governor. So the criminal case facing him and his 4 children is ongoing at the Milimani Anti-Corruption Court and is expected to come up today for hearing. Into matters sports, the Kenya Rugby Sevens will leave for pre-competition camp in Miramas, the southern part of France today. For this year's Paris Olympics, they will be the first batch of Kenyan athletes to travel and will be followed by Malkia strikers 2 days later. That, in a nutshell, is what is in our news diary. Right now, though, to Today in History.
On this day, the government of Angola announced the death of former President José Eduardo dos Santos, who ruled for nearly 4 decades. Dos Santos passed away at age 79 at the Tecnon Clinic at the Spanish city after prolonged illness.
All right, let's now take a look at the dailies this morning. All right. Interesting images on the front pages of the dailies today from that gathering yesterday at Nairobi's Uhuru Park for the Saba Saba Memorial Concert. It's this image is on the front page of the Daily Nation and on the front page of the Standard. Let's take a look at what's the big story on the front page of the Standard today. To fire or keep, Ruto's cabinet dilemma. It's a fresh new headache for the president. The president faces probably the biggest test of his presidency on who to fire from cabinet in a government where loyalty precedes any other qualification. Now, Ruto faces a Herculean task of letting go of his friends. Story is on page 4. And the president, the quote a commentator, Monene Masharia, who says the president is facing an internal crisis on how to balance national and personal interests as far as the reconstituting of his cabinet is concerned. It is a discussion that has been going on for the past few weeks, a looming cabinet reshuffle. Yes, now to the biggest discussion. In honor of fallen Gen Z protesters, thousands gather at Nairobi's Uhuru Park for the Saba Saba Memorial Concert yesterday in honor of youths who were killed during protests against the Finance Bill 2024. And they honored the 41 lives through song and dance, and even had crosses that numbered the same.
Yeah.
To what is going to be big news today, doctors to down tools over interns' medical cover. The story is on page 2. Today, doctors backed by Gen Z protesters intend to storm Afya House to push the Ministry of Health to post intern doctors and provide comprehensive medical cover to civil servants. It's a big story, and it's what we'll be covering for most of the day today.
Oh, yes.
Push to have Kiswahili National Council formed. Yesterday was a World Swahili Day.
Naam, ndugu.
Siku ya Kiswahili ulimwenguni. Ingelikuwa ni leo tungezungumza Kiswahili. Lakini
tungejaribu.
Mimi ningezungumza Kiswahili, sikujaribu. Sanifu kabisa. On the health and science, living with happiness, it's there. You can read the pullout. Let's go to the top strip of the Standard for more highlights. Exams quandary as NEC budget is slashed to 0. Yeah. These are some of the headlines you'll start getting used to.
Yeah.
Told now budget will end on a finance bill. Mm-hmm. So what happens, I don't know. French vote in final round of elections. Yes, French elections happened over the weekend, and now they're looking at the results. A lot is happening. No clear winner yet. They have what looks like they describe as a hung parliament, meaning that whoever wins would still not be able to have a majority to form government, unlike in the UK, where what we see on Friday. So they'll probably have to form an alliance. In the US, Biden warns on corruption in Kenya. That's on the business pages. And a day of trumpets and battle cries at sports on page 31 and 32, of course, with a focus on the Euro 2024. Who's going to stop me now? The Netherlands forward Wout Weghorst reacts during the UEFA Euro 2024 quarter-final match against Turkey. Tomorrow, 2 games, Spain versus France, the semi-finals. And later, on Wednesday, Netherlands facing England. Hey, that's a juicy one.
Oh, yes.
But even very nice photos on page 31 of the Standard.
For
lovers of football, page 31 of the Standard. I wish someone could show you this, but yeah.
Page 31 to clip up.
Very interesting photos from the Euro tournament.
All right. Tukiflip Daily Nation, najua unatafutia hiyo page 31, say day of trumpet and endless battle cries. There you have it. Some beautiful, beautiful pictures there. Tuangazie gazeti la Daily Nation. Reminds even our director maneno ya World Cup. Tuangazie gazeti la Daily Nation. And even before we actually start taking a look at the headlines, I think tunafaa tupigie Faith Kipyegon makofi. Ako pale juu yeye ndio ameanzisha.
She smashed her own record.
Yes, ameanzisha
0.07 seconds.
Oh yes.
So Faith Kipyegon, congratulations. This is from the Paris Diamond League edition. Also, someone else who won the 100 meters, Ferdinand Omanyala.
Oh yes.
So yes, congratulations Ferdinand as well.
I hope walicheza ile song ya Omanyala akimalizia. Do you know it?
No, I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
He sang a song?
Not him, really.
Oh.
There's someone who sang a song about Omanyala.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I get you now.
Kukua baby boomer ni ngumu. Other headlines on the front page of Daily Nation. Inside MP's plot to grab state tenders. So listen to this. The Senate has given public officers, as MPs, governors, CSs, PSs, and parastatal chiefs, a free pass to openly bag government contracts after dismantling a proposed law to curb conflict of interest. All hope now lies in the National Assembly to overturn the changes, was on pages 4 and 5. This even as the Anti-Corruption Agency, that is EACC, has criticized the move to water down conflict of interest bill.
Kama ijafikia Gen Z, hii headline ni kama ijafikia Gen Z.
We are solving one thing at a time here.
One problem at a time.
One problem at a time. Oh yes. But it's going to be interesting to see how this is going to shape up. So that's coming up. Another big news, Saba Saba concert. Have images there of the Shuja's Memorial concert that was happening yesterday. But then another, let's call it a reprieve, actually omitted to reprieve, pale chini, jobs reprieve for junior school teachers and intern doctors. So the government has moved to safeguard the absorption of GSS teachers and medical interns on permanent and pensionable terms, despite their hiring having faced uncertainty following the collapse of the Finance Bill 2024. On the left strip, a headline that not any other, I haven't seen this on other dailies. They say Kenyan high alert as Mpox virus detected in DR Congo. To be of that, on sports news, France shrug off the critics. Look ahead to semi-finals. In international news, is Kamala Harris the one to beat Donald Trump in November? Is what they're asking there. She worries Republican donors. She has name recognition and has Democratic Party heavyweights beginning to line up behind her. I think this even after that presidential debate between Joe Biden and the former President Trump. After that, Kamala Harris jina yake imeanza kutokea sana. Pale juu, a final one, how debts and salaries have impeded growth in devolved units. So only Narok spent over 50% of its development budget. On the back page is Matters Sports. They say first batch of Team Kenya off to Paris. I had mentioned that in our news diary for today. We'll be taking a look at even this whole preps for the Paris Olympics. That in a nutshell is Daily Nation. Tuangazie gazeti ingine yenye ni Business Daily maybe?
Yes, on the front of the Business Daily, IMF may delay approval of fresh funding to Kenya. Planned Friday review meeting not on board calendar. Finance bill withdrawal to impact future disbursements. And we get the feeling that after the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024, a lot will not work the way the government had planned, and we will see more of such headlines. Down there, still on the front page of the Business Daily, and this I was saying could be a business idea. Have you realized that the number of flags available now for the first time has really gone up? Just look at the number of flags on that photo. Everyone has a flag.
Everyone has a flag.
Someone must be cashing in a good one.
Yeah.
Whoever is printing or producing the Kenyan flag.
Sahi flag, vuvuzelas, zile whistles, and bandanas. Some really good stuff.
This is from yesterday at Uhuru Park, the memorial concert for protest victims, as young people next to crosses bearing the names of the persons who were killed or abducted by police during the anti-finance bill protests across the country at Uhuru Park yesterday. And there were various artists present to entertain them. Matters investment, NSC bond turnover surges to 777 billion shillings, and that's a magic number for gamblers, 777. So it's interesting. NSC, maybe it could say something about the boss. On the ticker, value of used clothes imports jumps to 28 billion. Mambo ya Mutumba. 28 billion worth. Way. Elsewhere, TPS to build 3 billion shilling meeting facility in Nairobi. Safaricom chief executive reveals 107 million shilling stake that he holds in the company. Well, okay. This is Safaricom CEO Peter Ndegwa raised the number of shares he holds in the company sevenfold to 6.21 million in the year ending March 2024 from 895,000. And finally, KQ eyes Slovenia with new Air France deal. That's a Business Daily this morning.
Let's tuangazie gazeti la Taifa Leo. Sema Ruto bado hapumui. Jenzi watangaza kurejea barabarani Alhamisi kwa maandamano ya kuzidisha pressure kwa serikali ya Ruto. Ni leo nasema bado mapambano.
Wanasema hata jana hakuenda kanisa.
Na kuinga vizuri saa zingine una relax kwa nyumba, you reflect upon. The deputy president and the spouse were somewhere in the mountains just relaxing as well.
In Madeira.
Yes. As well. So Taifa Leo sema watoa shutuma kali dhidi ya utawala wa Kenya kwanza katika maadhimisho ya Saba Saba. Kalonzo naye apuuza mabadiliko yaliyotangazwa na Rais Ruto. Pale chini vidokezo vingine, serikali ya Rai EAC iunge Raila AUC. Kenya kwanza yaomba mataifa wanachama wa jumuiya ya EAC unge Kenya barani. Na ulivyodokeza pale deputy president alipokuwa kusema Gachagua alia mbunge amhujumu, alalamika mbunge wake wa Mathira ni kikwazo kwa vita dhidi ya pombe. Niliona one of the cabinet ministers akisema the president of Mathira. It really spoke volumes. Pale juu, rais serikali itenge siku ya Kiswahili. Sema maadhimisho ya siku ya Kiswahili duniani yakamilika Mombasa kwa mbwembwe. Pengineko kwenye masuala ya michezo, Saka abeba Uingereza katika Euro, asawazishia timu yake bao dhidi ya Uswizi katika robo finali, watakutana na Uholanzi. Na hiyo ndio vidokezo kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo.
Tuangazie People Daily. On the front page of the People Daily, 30,000 to exit public service. A worrying headline, that one. Staff who have attained 60 years to hang their boots after directive by President Ruto in response to demand by Gen Z. The story is on page 4. It is the number 30,000 that's a bit worrying, though. I don't think all of them are over 60. They can't be. And the photo there on the front page, a looter continue, our brave youth celebrate fallen comrades, and an image there from Uhuru Park yesterday during the memorial concert. Raila takes AU job battle to East Africa. And an image there of Raila with the South Sudan President Salva Kiir. On the top of the People Daily on the front page, DP Gachagua turns his guns on Ruto allies. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua speaking there during a church service in Nyeri County yesterday. I think he's the only politician who's still attending church service on Sundays. Ni kama ilikuwa imezimwa. Even the president has stayed away from church. So ni kama hiyo trend ijamfikia bado. That's the People Daily this morning.
And finally, on the front page of the Star, revealed financial mess at Hustler Fund. This is one of the biggest headlines this morning. Audit unearths major irregularities in President Ruto's key flagship project. If you want to read that, that is on pages 4 and 5. Another big story, very saddening, how MPs diluted key anti-graft law to protect state officers, is on the very top strip. They also have a collage of photos. Gen Z remember comrades killed in protests. Today, the Star has decided to give you reveals. Another reveals is on the bottom strip. They say 14 billion cash shillings unexplained expenditure rocks universities. So listen to this. Cash-strapped public universities could have lost more than 14 billion of taxpayers' money. A new report shows, the report by the Auditor General, Nancy Kathungu, who has been pictured there, shows that the institutions could not account how the cash was spent. The damning verdict comes at a time when most of the universities are on their knees. Another headline on Matters Health, vaccine-derived alarm after poliovirus found in city sewage. And that, in a nutshell, is the Star, which takes us to the cartoons this morning.
Yes, the Standard doesn't have a cartoon. Instead, it has a photo on page 12. The space usually reserved for the cartoon. They have a photo of police officers looking at some new gadget. Police officers testing video speed guns donated by the Global Road Safety Partnership through the Bloomberg Philanthropies Initiative for Global Road Safety during the speeding enforcement training. Yes, according to latest data, 9,996 people are directly affected by boda accidents between May 22 and October 2023. So that's a cartoon, or rather the photo that usually should be the cartoon. On page 13 of the Daily Nation, the cartoon is about government spending, a big budget book there, the government spending 2024-2025, and then the president, or a caricature of the president, coming with two pairs of scissors, one on a wheelbarrow, ready to cut down on government spending.
Right.
So yes, that's on the Daily Nation.
And finally, on People Daily, I'll try to explain it as it is, as Tano's take. They have a common mwananchi there leading against a ballot box imeandikwa 2027 polls, and beside it ni mbunge mwenye anaomba msamaha, anasema please find a soft place in your heart and forgive me. It was the work of the devil. I'll never do it again. I beg you, don't do this to me. Pale, they have a note, say MPs who publicly defended the finance bill and voted for it now have a political mountain to climb. And that also speaks volumes on even this bill yenye iko sahi. You know, yenye naongelelea ya where is it? The contradicting
on state officers.
Yes, on state officers. Yes. When it comes...
So alienation, inside MPs plot to grab state tenders.
Yes.
That's a big story on the front.
The conflict of interest bill was what I was looking for.
Yes.
When the National Assembly opens end of this month, when they're going to even debate this, okay, they're going to also remember how Kenyans are really angry at them, and going to be debating on this one very, very carefully.
Yes, indeed, some of the headlines today could actually have the potential of provoking quite some outrage. We'll be looking at this and a lot more with my panelists, Philip Kisia, Kipruto Arap Kirwa, Honorable Dr. Mumbingaru, and Samuel Pogisio will be in studio after the break. Don't go too far. Do stand by for that. And of course, interact with us on social media, on X at TV47 News and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya. You can tag me as well on X at Fred Ndimuli.
And your _2047 is our SMS number. Coming up at around 8 a.m. we discuss prostate cancer awareness. So definitely anza kutafuta credit, tupigie simu around that time for more conversations on that. We take a short break, we'll be right back.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that. So when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of...
What point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni.
In a world where challenges are as common as opportunities, there are those who dare to defy the odds. They are the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a business, it's about embracing uncertainty, pushing boundaries, and turning dreams into reality.
Hata ambao ni pesa ya kusave, wallahi. Mbao mwaka ni pesa nyingi sana.
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
The way we run the business is in a very unforgiving way, where every team member has to bring out their best.
So, to all the dreamers, innovators, and risk takers out there, remember, being an entrepreneur isn't just a job, it's a way of life. Join the journey. Become an entrepreneur. The Grind, Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Here on Beyond the Limit, we celebrate the extraordinary achievements of individuals who redefine possibilities. In a journey of resilience and determination, these individuals demonstrate that limitations are merely stepping stones to greatness.
I'm Nancy Njoroge, a mother of 3. I have 2 girls and a boy who is Clinton and who is autistic.
When my heart got healed, I decided to come out to be creating CP awareness, to let other people know that there is such a condition, and people that has it is not that they are witches.
Together, let's go beyond the limit every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Welcome to The Realtor, where we take you on an exciting journey from bare land to dream home. Step 1. Finding the perfect plot. We explore location, size, and potential. Next, construction begins. Witness the foundation being laid, walls rising, and rooms taking shape. Step 3. Electricity matters. We delve into wiring, switches, and smart home tech. Step 4. From paint choices to fixtures, it's all about aesthetics. Step 5. It's time to get the right furniture. Finally, the big day. Time to move in and create memories. Join us on the journey to making homes a reality on The Realtor, Tuesdays 6:30.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni ridgeback, ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that, so when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of...
What point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be
Good morning. This is the Morning Cafe right here on TV47. My name is Fred Ndimuli. Time for us to take a look at the headlines this morning on the state of the nation. Being a Monday, of course, we have our usual power panel. Dr. Mumbingaru, former MP, East Africa Legislative Assembly. Karibu sana.
Good morning, Fred.
Yes. Kipruto Rapkirwa, former Agriculture Minister.
Good morning.
Good morning. Bwana Samuel Pogisio, former ICT Minister. Good morning. Karibu sana.
Good morning.
And definitely last but not least, Bwana Philip Kisia, former Town Clerk Nairobi, and also a governance and expert. Karibuni sana. A lot to talk about from last week. The last time you were here on Monday last week, so much had not happened. We've seen a lot, including the president hosting an X space, which is unprecedented. And what happened yesterday at Uhuru Park? And let's start with that, because you, at least all of you on this panel, have the benefit of hindsight, and you were there in the 1990s, probably already in the political space, when the Saba Saba, the very first Saba Saba day in Kenya, happened. Back then, there was agitation for fresh elections, towards a push for multi-party democracy. Yesterday, we saw a commemoration, more or less a memorial event for those who died during the protests last week. And probably we start by drawing comparisons and contrasts from what we saw yesterday and what we witnessed 24 years ago, actually 34 years ago in 1990. Dr. Mumbingaru, were you involved in that agitation first, back in the 1990s?
It's 30 years ago. I was mature, still a mother, but I was not in the real thing. I was a supporter, but not in the real thing. I was 30-something. So, first of all, I want to say I missed last week. Thank you for your understanding. Again, we keep on passing our condolences to the many parents who are hurting. And yesterday, I'm sure their relief was in that there was a mass commemoration of the lives of their loved ones, and there was not an attack by the police or the security agencies. I can see light at the end of the tunnel. I keep on thanking the Gen Z and the millennials generation, because what was started those years is now coming to, to fruition, and we are saying, may God protect them. And the fact that they have moved this far without being cornered. I know attempts have been there to be cornered by the systems of government, and they are still able to hold it. They are not yet divided along tribal lines, political lines, class lines. And for the president to drop in quotes, the finance bill. I remember I said it here, that it's just a trigger, and it has turned out to be.
We'll come back to those concessions that the president made, because even last week on Friday he addressed quite a number of that. But Bwana Kisia, the cost that we have witnessed, the number of people who have died from the protests, it's unprecedented. 41 people. Even back in the 1990s, probably the records were different, but 41 people by any standards, that number is very high. If we may draw a comparison between the two occasions, back in the 90s and what is happening currently, the cost is a bit too high, don't you think?
Well, Fred, allow me to join my sister in condoling with the families and friends who've lost their loved ones. We are now at 41. There are a lot others who have been maimed. There are a lot others who are in hospital recovering from severe injuries that have been inflicted by this rogue regime, a regime that doesn't seem to have any value on life. And you asked me to quantify. Fred, you cannot quantify life. You know, one life lost is unquantifiable. You can't. You can't place any value on a life, on human life. We are not talking about animals, we are talking about human beings. So, one is a terrible number. I don't know what you'll call 41. So condolences to the family. Just before I draw a comparison between the 90s and what we've seen now, I came across this a quote by Jonathan Edwards, who lived in 1703 to 1758. And he said, there are people who are filled with knowledge, but empty of mercy and love. That is Jonathan, who said many, I think more than 2-3 centuries ago. Okay? It seems to be happening in the 21st century in a place called Kenya. That there's somebody who seems to be knowledgeable, but is empty of love. Because it's only somebody who's empty of love who can inflict pain on his people, who can actually cause death and murder in a very heinous way. So Fred, if you look at, and I listened to some video this morning. I think there's a young man called Okoth who lives in here in Nairobi, in Starehe constituency, Landimai to be specific, who had gone to CBD2 for a job. So this is a young man who had gone to the father. The father is William Samoei Arap Ruto, and say, Dad, I am hungry. Dad, I need a job. Dad, I finished school. But he was received with 6 bullets. He is now actually recuperating in Landimawe. A terrible scene to have a look at. A young person who went begging to the father. But he said, what do? You pump 6 bullets in his body. But let me say this. In the 90s, Saba Saba, may God rest the souls of those who have departed in eternal peace. They are the ones who actually started this journey, including our party leader, Raila Amolo, in the 90s. Okay? They were the ones who agitated for change, democratic change, and eventually we had Section 2A repealed. Okay? If you look at that time, they were not as young. We call them the young Turks. But if you look at their profile, I think they were in their early 30s. Mumbi will correct me. They were in their early 30s, I think. But if you look at this group, the Gen Zs, these are children. Okay? By any definition, these are in their early 20s. Some of them are, 17, 18, 19, 20, early 20s. Okay? So we are dealing with a much younger group. That time, they are not very advanced in technology, but if you look at this group, they are so advanced in technology, and therefore they're able to do things in a very efficient and effective manner. The two groups are vibrant. That generation of Orengo and party leader and Matiba and so on and so forth, Mati Shukuku, vibrant. But these ones are more vibrant than what we had before. That group of our party leader and the rest who have departed, Matiba, Shikuku, Rubia, okay? The group, if you look at the group composition, there were more men. But if you look at the Gen Zs, we appear to have many more young girls who are participating in Maandamano. Now, we put into context. The things that they were fighting for may not be as different. That time they were fighting for what? Bad governance. We're also fighting for bad governance. They were fighting corruption. It has never ended. In fact, right now, it is at a mega scale. Okay? You can't even believe it. That time, we were not so tribal. At this time, I think we're extremely tribal around this time. Okay? That time, we were not talk about incompetence in government. This time round, these young people are saying you have an incompetent and corrupt, not just corrupt, but incompetent. So you see, our challenges seem to be growing instead of reducing. And therefore, I just want to join others who are praising and appreciating what our Gen Z have done, because we started this journey, some of us and all of us here on the panel and others started agitating for change. We raised the red flag in good time, but the king refused to listen to us.
Okay.
It is the Gen Z who have told the king, you are naked.
Okay.
They have courage.
Bonakirwa, you two were more or less a young tuck around that same time in the 90s, already probably, or just about to begin working for government, even as a member of parliament back then. You probably remembered vividly what the agitation was like. As Kisia said, more or less, more of the things that people are fighting for are still present here today. The protesters may have changed a bit in the demographic, but it would appear, even with the 41 deaths, we are still fighting for the same issues we were fighting for 34 years ago.
Well, Fred, I do want to agree with you that we are fighting for the same issues, and we are fighting for the same issues because they are provided as a standard way of engaging society by those in the leadership. What may be different today is that we are living under new constitutional dispensation, the Constitution of 1963, which had been subsequently amended 34 times, a number of occasions. It had also been patched up to the extent that the president had become like the ultimate authority on the land without any refrain. And therefore, that constitution, and I just want to appreciate President Moi, because despite the fact that he was leading under a constitution that gave him ultimate power, he never behaved the way our leaders behave today. At least he has a measure of humility, and he was a true Christian, in the sense that a number of things that happened, he was able to restrain himself from doing the things that we see today. The police brutality that I see and saw in the streets and the sponsoring of goons may have been done in the past, but to a limited extent. This time, as my good friend Philip Kisia said, technology was not as useful as it is today, such that you are able to see a policeman, you can trace somebody all the way, and you see a policeman shooting him. Then later on they say the bullets that rained on the young man, the 12-year-old, were that of a goon who snatched the gun from the policeman and shot at the boy. These are some of the challenges that we are faced with today, that you can lie, but there is evidence of your lies being published almost instantaneously. The second issue, as stated by our brother, this may not be so young a population, because this is the age of university-going students at that particular time, because some were in their 20s, early 20s, and some even were at the university late 20s. That is like now the Rex Masai, who is 29. And those university students used to go on rampage, fighting for the same issues. Of course, at times fighting over some other things, akin to what makes you fool every day. but many of them were fighting for the same space that we require. Today, the difference also is that while the president was almost permanently in office, because every election the president used to go and oppose both in his constituency and at the national level, this time the president is somebody subjected to a vote like any other person. But our president, for certain convenient reasons, has forgotten that even if he's not evicted from office, something that I've never advocated, he's facing his Waterloo in the next 3 years because he has chosen not to understand the pulse rate of the nation. He has made various attempts, but up to now, I feel there are certain goofs that are made by those in power, such that when they make a gain today, tomorrow, they lose so many points. Because the president should have just said the raft of things he said, but this issue of engaging directly with the young people, he could have delayed so that down the road, we'll have believed this story.
Okay.
Because now he made the suggestions, but we are here to believe.
Okay.
Finally, allow me to wish happy birthday to Felix Koskei, head of public service, who turned 60 on Saturday.
Okay.
And I hope he's going to respect the president by preparing to go home. Because that is part of the reasons why the president said anybody above 60 must of necessity go home.
Yeah. Interesting. Pugisio, looking at successive administrations, each administration has faced a challenge at one point during its tenure. President Moi faced perhaps after 82, the other bigger challenge was in the 90s with the agitation for multi-party democracy. And Saba Saba was among those. And he ceded. He considered by repealing Section 2A back then and enabling multi-party elections to happen subsequently. We saw even President Mwai Kibaki, who succeeded him. And with the referendum of 2005, the Chungwa Nandizi, he also experienced quite some challenge. And he also considered some point. President Uhuru too faced challenges. Shouldn't we say that this is just something normal in the tenure of any president, that challenges such as this will come and it depends on how you handle them? Do you think that in comparison, President Ruto has managed these challenges better?
Fred, thank you for the opportunity to respond. But let me first of all join my colleagues in condoling the lives lost unnecessarily, recklessly lost, and deliberately lost by shootings, by police shootings. And I condemn it as well. And wish those who are recovering quick recovery. By the way, there are some very determined young people. I saw a young man who was, this young man was being referred to by my colleague here. And he is in hospital with 6 bullets in his body. And when he was interviewed, he says, we must continue with this pressing on. And the guy can't even walk, but he wants to say, well, let's continue doing this. This is the determination we need in this country. Number 2, I like to congratulate a young lady called Faith Kipyegon, who has just broken her own record, world record of all in the 1500. I mean, amazing person. But let's come back to your question, because it's every leader has a challenge, but no leader has had a challenge like this one. I think William Ruto has to face this in a different way. I think he prepared himself to face challenges, but not this kind of challenge, where the young people of this world, and they're not from Kenya only, the whole world, are condemning him right now. I listened to a group of young white ladies in Scotland who are singing Ruto Must Go, and they don't even know what the problem is, but they're in Scotland, you know. So the whole world has taken on this matter. So no president has really faced this. The others were facing adults and grown-ups, and not only adults, but also people who are cowardly in a way, who will not continue the way these people have continued. We have to congratulate those people in 1990 who held the first Saba Saba. I mean, those guys were also killed, by the way. But not to the extent that we have seen. This one, where the people are being shot at with live bullets and so on. So yeah, I agree with you. I have worked with President Kibaki, I worked with President Uhuru, and I'm now, in a way, I'm working with this president, in a way, by offering my own advice. I think I'm working for him. But this is free advice that my colleague, Honorable Kirwa, tried on Friday or something like that to offer, to offer free advice, which was not taken. You haven't seen this, where our kids, and we call them kids, but they actually are fully grown now. After the age, they finished college and so on, they are really fully grown. They're just our children. But when you look at this newspaper, the headline there, and you see, it used to be people like Orengo, Raila, who are showing up like this. Now look at this. This is a lady, a young lady. This is the face of this thing. And if you don't listen to them, they are not going to relent. This one, you can't even compromise them, because you know what we did in every government, we would say, okay, come and join government. And then you are quiet. Come and join government. But you can't tell these fellows, come and join government. Well, what are they going to join government for? They don't want it. They want you to sack your ministers. They want you to stop wasting our resources. They want you to stop the corruption. They're demanding the things that we could demand. But then we would quickly be told, come and join government. And then when we join government, you kept quiet. You never continue with that. So there are many things that are going wrong with the situation right now. Number two, the way I look at it, number three, the way I look at it is that this is already a divided government. As you can see, people are talking at cross purposes. I think the president and his deputy are talking at cross purposes. But also look at it. All those who are supposed to be advisors and those who are supposed to work for the president have all fled. Okay? There was not a time when a president felt so lonely. So William Ruto is facing the most difficult time because he's alone. Everybody who is supposed to give any kind of advice is gone.
Wow.
Do you hear them anymore? You don't hear them anymore. They're gone. Everybody's running for their life. So it's him now and him alone. And all he needs now is to look for old friends, people who are not there before.
He definitely needs friends.
He needs to call old friends, people who don't give him a pat on his back. The people who can tell him straight to his face that this is where you failed.
Gazeti la Taifa Leo habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele inasema Ruto bado hapumui. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll be looking at some of the concessions the president has made and whether or not we're being a bit too harsh on the head of state.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that. So when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of.
At what point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni.
In a world where challenges are as common as opportunities, there are those who dare to defy the odds. They are the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a business, it's about embracing uncertainty, pushing boundaries and turning dreams into reality.
Hata mbao ni pesa ya kusave. Wallahi. Mbao mwaka ni pesa nyingi sana.
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
The way we run the business is in a very unforgiving way, where every team member has to bring out their best.
So,
Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Ndibuli. I'm still in studio with Dr. Mombingaru, Kiputo Rapkirwa, Samuel Pogisio and Philip Kisia. I've just been looking at an overview and the comparison between Saba Saba, what we witnessed yesterday and what we witnessed 34 years ago in 1990. I now want us to focus on the conduct of the president over the past few weeks. And despite the continued criticism, the president has come out and given quite a number of concessions. Away from his very first speech on the night of Tuesday when he came out guns blazing, the following day he came, called a press conference at State House, conceded on a number of things, even rejecting all the clauses in the finance bill, which was among the biggest demands by the protesters. He has gone ahead and talked to young Kenyans and said, offered to have a conversation with them. He asked if he could form that multi-sectoral forum. They said no. He decided to go to their space and on Friday hosted the inaugural President's X space, a space that, an idea that is unprecedented. We've not seen any other president attempt something like that. The same day, he gave a lot of concessions in as far as the budget is concerned. 24 areas where the budget will be cut. In some areas 100%, like funds that were to be directed towards the offices of the First Lady, Deputy, the Second Lady, and such like things. And one wonders, are we not being a bit too critical to a president who's already giving in? Dr. Ngaru.
Fred, I'm surprised that you are talking about the president giving in. I remember we've talked about the same issues on this platform for almost 2 months. In fact, I remember somebody pointing out at Philip Kisia, you are being too hard, because he would tabulate how the president would save on government expenditure. I have little sympathy for the president because by the time he came out to respond, he had been guided from different quarters. I read the media, social media, from different platforms. Those are things that had been told to him, and he did not have to wait until he's pushed to a corner. Well, he must have felt it, and to probably save his regime, he thought he would give that the concessions that you are talking about. But what I thank the Gen Zs for is that they don't trust him, just like most of us. So the concessions are there, he's given them, and they really want to see whether it's going to be done. But talking to him and for him to come out and say it's going to be done, the actions and the words are always at cross purpose. So there is a wait and see attitude amongst not only the Gen Zs, but the country.
Isn't this mistrust an issue of generation? Because when Apogisio talks about the trust deficit, isn't it that, could it be that the older generation are gotten so used to politicians lying that they do not trust them?
No, it is there, but like we said, this generation is enjoying the new technology, and they are using the technology to its fullest. And the fact that they know the cost of being compromised, because this is something that Waziri Pogiso talked about it. They would look at who is giving them problems, and they are called, come and join us in government. And after that, you look for Philip Kisia, and you will not find him, because already he swallowed the bit. I like the Gen Z strategy. They have refused. And I said, I am using the word refused, because I am sure attempts have been made. Even the space. Even some of us that are not very technologically savvy, you could know that somebody is trying to locate who the team leader is and try to get them and fix them. Others were put out. So they know, they understand their space. They know the way our space was compromised, and they're prepared to protect that space. So the president is cornered. I must say he's a very strong person. He is strong. But I don't know for how long this strength is going to hold. True to the word that he could be feeling lonely, that he is alone. No, he's not alone. He still has got his deputy. His deputy cannot run away. Even by distancing himself outside here, he cannot run away from what is happening. In fact,
it is his burden too.
It is his burden. And if he wanted to be on our side, on the side of the Gen Zs, and on the side of Kenyans, he would take a very brave decision and come out, resign, and be part of the team. But speaking when you are still enjoying the facilities and distancing yourself from the boss and saying, you know, it doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work. Okay. I'm looking at a tweet here by Mutai Ngunyi. I know you don't disagree with a lot of what he says, but bear with me. He says, my point, to try and overthrow a constitutionally elected president through civil disobedience is to do a civilian coup, and the constitution allows it. But did Ruto listen? Yes. Did he climb down? Yes. Why must he go? No idea. This revolution has no argument except ban Kenya.
Except?
Ban Kenya.
You know, Fred, I had to painfully listen to you read the tweet from my good friend, Professor Ngunyi. But I understand where most of these people are coming from. You know, as I think the Arabs say, it is only the stomach that will complain when you're feeling hunger. The head will keep quiet. So I believe that's what is happening to most of these people who seem not to see what is happening, not to hear what is happening. So I'll avoid really commenting on Prof.
It is the same sentiment that there's a general feeling that the president has conceded.
I'm coming to that, but you know, when the stomach is rumbling, some of these statements will keep on coming out. But let me say this, and let me comment on what my sister has said, that our president, William Ruto, is a strong man. I have a different view, because a man who can afford a smile during such adversity, I don't know. I mean, we have 41 young Kenyans who are either in the morgue or have been buried. 41. human beings, young human beings, your own people, your own children who are dead. If I was the one in his space, I would not even have afforded a green. I would be dead. I would have died. So I don't know whether that is a strong man by the definitions of my sister. Is a different kind of a human being that you can afford even to appear to be strong and even afford a smile when you're facing such a serious challenge. But let me say this, Fred. You know, I don't know whether President William Ruto can be redeemed. Because if you look at the austerity measures that he has talked about, there's things that we've talked about before, but even if you look at the team that is in charge of his fiscal and monetary policy, these are people who are grounded, okay? These are people who have been there. Thuge was there. I think, Thuge and Professor Ndungu. In the previous regime, they were both in charge of the fiscal and monetary policy. The same people again who, and if Uhuru Kenyatta was, if Uhuru Kenyatta was not a very capable leader, then why did he go and choose the same people who worked for Uhuru Kenyatta, who in his own definition failed, but is using the same lieutenants to give prescription? Professor Ndungu and Thuge. I'm not doubting their capabilities. My point is, the problem could be in the leadership, top leadership, that it doesn't listen to anybody, they listen to themselves. But let me say this, let's look at the measures the president has, people are talking about concession, he has conceded, okay? Now, when you talk about suspending, and that's why I agree with my sister Mumbi, William Ruto is not a man to trust. Don't even blink. He is not a man you can even trust for 1 second. Because in the raft of measures that he has announced, he has talked about suspending the appointment of CAS. Mm-hmm. He had the opportunity to say, this one I'm scrapping it off. In fact, I'm taking it back to Parliament. We don't need this position. But he has said he's suspending, meaning that 3 months down the line when things probably have cooled down, he may appoint those incompetent cronies of his back to office called CAS. And these CAS, we know, they have nothing to offer, in terms of even, rejuvenating and recreating our economy. Then there are these so-called advisors. Mwai Kibaki, my president, worked with only 4 advisors. But he relied on the technocrats who have been there, who are grounded in the ministries. Then, of course, he appointed competent ministers, like my 2 senior brothers here, Mheshimiwa Kirwa and Pogisho. Competent, well-grounded, well-experienced, to help him deal with political matters, but to deal with policy issues, okay? Now, if you look at my friend William, the president, because my children have cautioned me not to talk about this gentleman being a friend. And know they're both millennials and Gen Zs. So
he is your friend. If he is, don't go the same way. The president is alone.
David, I must respond to my customers. They're saying, please avoid. So I'm a listening person. Mm-hmm. I'm a listening person. So advisors. He said he had an opportunity to say, remove these people. I don't need them because I have technocrats. These people can do other things in the economy to benefit themselves. Remove 100%. He has said 50%, but they're still in office. Then he talked about, if you're talking about concession, dealing with the wage bill, he has talked about retiring people who are past 60. This is a policy statement he issued a year ago. He issued it. He has reissued the same policy statement. Can you trust him? If he issued that policy statement a year ago, 12 months later, he's reissuing the same policy. Does it make sense? It may not even happen. Now, then you talk about renovations. Renovating state lodges, state house, and so on and so forth. Those are things that can be postponed for more than 12 months. It's not a matter of life and death. What you need is repair and maintenance budget, just to repair and maintain the state lodges. We can actually, those billions of shillings that have been set aside for renovations can wait. Then he talked about motor vehicles. You see Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso riding in old motor vehicles. Why would you even need to buy motor vehicles? They are using billions of shillings. This is something that we can actually set aside for the next 2-3 years, and government will still be as efficient as possible. So he made an attempt to give us some crumbs, okay? To try and persuade the people that he's actually dealing with austerity in terms of looking at his OPEX account, operational account. And he's trying to, but what are the savings? There are no savings. In my view, Fred, he would have dealt with this thing in a single bullet. Can I give you a secret? The bullet?
Go ahead.
The bullet is number one, dealing with corruption.
Okay.
If he had talked about how he was going to deal with corruption in his government, the savings is over 1 trillion. He has money to deal with. Finally, when you talk about concession, people are expecting him to dissolve government, not to say he will deal with talk about other changes in the coming few weeks. And this is something, he had a golden opportunity. Therefore, this is a man that cannot be trusted, not even for 1 minute.
Let's appreciate, because what he has done, Bwana Kirwa, you've worked closely with the president.
Yes.
And the kind of actions we've seen over the last 2 weeks from our president is unprecedented. No president would give in that fast to a lot of these things, going to the extent of subjecting himself to questions from the general public on a space that is on social media. Definitely, we cannot ignore some of the actions the president has made.
Well, I do appreciate he's made some moves, but he has been making 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And that's why, from my good brother Philip Kisha, it is very hard to trust him. In Nyandarua, he talked very nicely that he was going to engage the young people. On Tuesday, he made such a bad statement, almost threatening every Kenyan, that he was going to crush all of us. And when he was not able to crush anybody during the finance bill day, he made another statement that he was conceding. But subsequent to that, listening to him when he was being interviewed by the 3 media houses, he was making so many goofs, including the fact that the numbers that we knew here in the public and the numbers that was available to him about those people that we've lost were almost at variance completely. Now, the second issue is that most of the statements he was making, he was just reversing, was getting rid of what was unconstitutional, because the First Lady's office is not in the Constitution. And they got advice much earlier from former Attorney General Githu Muigai that there was a good brief from the Attorney General about the office of the First Lady. Likewise, many other raft of things. He was just telling us he's getting rid of what is not provided for in the Constitution. Mm-hmm. The third issue that I would have expected, just to follow on what Philip has said, is to deal with wastage. How is he going to reduce wastage in government? Pilferage and outright theft. You are seeing this morning, members of parliament now want to be part of the tendering process, or to be going for tenders. So when are they going to be there? The president should not even have allowed that particular debate to take place in the Senate, because these are some of the areas where we feel society is totally conflicted. The third issue, which is also very critical, is that in the process of telling us he has sort of thrown away the finance bill, he went ahead to give us measures that dead finance bill would have given us. And also went ahead, because we need legal minds to assist us in this extent, to sign appropriations bill. What are you appropriating when the finance bill is dead? Mm-hmm. Because the foundation of appropriations bill is laid by the finance bill. So if the finance bill, the foundation is dead, then you continue building the house on quicksand. So these are some of the measures that we feel the president should also be courageous. And the advice I want to give him, at the risk of being criticized by the Honorable Kisio, is he should dissolve the cabinet today. And having dissolved the cabinet, he will have a latitude of freedom to reconstitute it. We are not telling him to sack all the people, because some of the guys are good. And men and women in cabinet, some of them are very good people. But having done that, he should step back and ask himself, why has the cabinet not worked for the last 18 months? And the reason is that he's a micromanager. He gets embroiled almost in every ministry, to the extent that he's a minister of all ministries. Only the figurehead is the minister in charge of that. The second issue he should do is to learn what is the geometry between the minister and the advisors for certain particular portfolio. How is the reporting system? Is the advisor supposed to build capacity for the minister? And the minister is the ultimate authority from that ministry. But if he picks advisors and they seem to be backbiting the ministers, no government can run on that kind of confusion. Okay. That is my worry.
Monapogisho, there's also the feeling that the president has been talking a bit too much. That from that speech that he made on that Tuesday evening that Bonakiro has made reference to, then the following day he comes less than 24 hours later, concedes on a lot of things, rejecting the finance bill. He grants an interview to the media on Sunday. The following week, he has 2 cabinet sittings. Then he goes on to space. In that, even from a government standpoint, during a crisis, is it advisable to issue so many statements within that short span of time?
Well, surely, Fred, you're trying to make me an advisor in this case. Let me just, first of all, debunk something that you have said. You have said that there is a general feeling that the president has conceded so much. That's not true. So where's the general feeling? Because the majority of the people, which were the youth, that's where you should count. How many of them have conceded? Because the rest of us are, what percentage are you and me?
2.
I mean, you know, so that be debunked. Number 2 is, you know, if even my good friend who offers free advice, Honorable Kirwa, tried it. He tried to say to the president, please, it's enough. Don't talk anymore.
Yeah.
Don't enter that space. Don't talk anymore. But again, where are the advisors? They've left. Where are they? They've gone. So I do believe that it is true. And I said there are certain times when it's said that when you are already in a pit, the best thing is to stop digging any further, and just don't dig, because the first thing you do is don't dig, and he keeps digging, and now it's so deep that coming out has become a big problem. The one thing which is going to cause problems with the president and with these advisors is that when you're conceding, you should find a way of not annoying the same people that you're talking with.
Yeah.
And it's very easy. Sometimes you just to be quiet instead of annoying them further. By every statement, there's a way in which you annoy the young people. By every statement. And not only the young people, but by the way, the older people are just quiet. They're also annoyed.
Yeah.
It's just that they have no way of expressing themselves, or there's no opportunity to express themselves. So when you start appointing task forces in the middle of all these things, you know, one of the biggest problems is we think that government money should be spent, completely spent. So you don't know how to do it, appoint more task forces. And these task forces, just like advisors, are consuming a lot of money that should not be absolutely unnecessary. Do you know that every minister is actually an advisor?
Yeah.
You actually don't need to have very many advisors, because every minister swears, takes an oath to be a good advisor to the president. And so when you bring another 50 advisors, you're actually just making another cabinet, basically. So you have a cabinet and then you have another cabinet. And these are some of the things that we need to say. The other problem we have is that the budget, the way we budget, by the way, is already a corrupt budget. We budget corruption in our budget. Because what happens is if there was a bad budget from the Uhuru days, what happens every year, we build on that budget. We don't start afresh. That's why you saw somebody like Sifuna saying that just for the expressway, a member of parliament is given 377,000 on his card, just to use the expressway. Now you have used the expressway. You know you don't need any more than 10,000 in a month. And that's what is given on his payslip every month. What do you do with that kind of money? Where are you going? What are you doing on the other side of the expressway? So that most of them don't even leave that side. So basically, what I'm just trying to tell you is that by talking and continuing to talk, and I would advise his ministers. I mean, I saw the other day Minister Murkomen speaking. I said, well, who told you to speak? Why are you speaking even? And the way you're speaking, you're making it look like that lifestyle audit is just a joke. And you tell me how long the shot should be, what kind of way. No, that's not what lifestyle audit is about. And seriously speaking, you don't need the law on lifestyle audit. You're the lifestyle audit yourself. I mean, everybody knows that you need, as a government person, as a public servant, you actually need to understand the laws about it. So this thing that MPs have got into, conflict of interest, it is in the law. Why should we even pass a law that talks about conflict of interest if you know that you're not allowed by laws to be doing tenders? So I'm saying I agree with you that what the president needs to do, by the way, is listen to himself. Listen to himself many times. Play back the things he has said to the people and listen to himself. Okay. It's because the people will get offended every time. And my brothers have already analyzed this. In the repairs or the renovations of state houses, he's cut it by 50%. He should cut it by 100%. Yeah. In any case, by the way, do you know that the Ministry of Works was created for this kind of things? That's their business. The painting and repairs of state houses and all these government buildings is actually the affair of the Ministry of Works. Okay. But now we have surpassed the Ministry of Works. We want money to go directly to State House for repairs of these things. No, these things are meant. Embassies across the world. You can't do anything without the Ministry of Works.
Okay. But listening to the panel, it would appear that you're suggesting that there's no way out for the president, apart from what Bonakisia suggests, that he should exit. A look at the dailies today, there are at least two of them that could really annoy the protesters. One is on the Star, financial mess at Hustler Fund, and the one on the Daily Nation, inside MP's plot to grab state tenders at such a time when you're already in crisis. But it would be the same probably asking you to advise the president, but do you see any way out for him in this crisis?
I still believe, contrary to my friend Philip, that the president is a very strong person. You cannot have millions and millions of Kenyans talking to you about how wrong you have been. It's not about smiling, but the fact that he can still wake up and call himself a president, that is strength. If I were him, you know, and nobody is telling you anything that is very good. Dissolve the cabinet. Your advisors have left. The budget is fake. We don't trust what you are saying. And you can still call for a meeting and engage with the media and Gen Zs. That is strength. Maybe he needs to use that strength positively. In that he listens, and before he answers, if I were him, thank God I'm not, I would by now have dissolved the cabinet and locked myself first in a meeting with myself. Not with anybody else. I don't want even the first lady near me. Yeah, if I have to go to, where like, a maximum prison where food will be passed through some hole, I would be there alone and analyze, because he has this thing.
But Bonapogiso suggests that loneliness could be part of the problem, that the president...
No, he's not lonely. How would he be lonely? And he's got somebody like Murkomen speaking on his behalf. I mean, he's not... we are that he's lonely. I have a different opinion. The loneliness he's going through is that having taught his cabinet, because they are good students, you don't speak until you are told. We have described it here. It's a one-man show. He calls a cabinet, he opens with prayer, talks, gives direction, closes, and that's a cabinet meeting, in quotes. So he's had it from all the quarters. All the quarters. He's had the good ones, like my friend Waziri Kirwa, who says, you are talking too much. He's had prayers. We have 100 intercessors paid by the state around State House. So he's had it from all of us. I watch other platforms, different TV stations, people trying to advise him. If I were him, I would lock myself for about 14 days, having suspended the cabinet. I was disappointed the other day when he said he wouldn't dissolve the cabinet, but he will try to see around. Remember here I told you, I think he is in some kind of captive arrangements with his cabinet ministers, because they are coming out blatantly, arrogantly, disrespectively, and he cannot do anything about it. So after dissolving the cabinet, I would go into a room alone, not to select a cabinet, but to ask myself, I know why I got here. It's because probably we sat and discussed and agreed, and he must say a prayer for himself before he prays for the nation, to get him out of the situation he is in. You know, sometimes when I want to be careless, even as I pray for him, I normally say, I'm probably praying for somebody who is used to those things. Bloodshed is not an issue to him. We were there in 2008, so what? It's not a big deal. Corruption is not a big deal. There's a whole list. Anybody can access the whole list of where he himself has been involved. Bad governance in whatever dockets he has been in charge of at cabinet level. It's there for him to see. This is why he needs a meeting with himself.
Alone.
And he says, Lord, you forgave me. I want you to help me to get me into a new beginning. Then after that, then he can select select people who care not only about him, because there is the caring about him and there is the caring about the country. And they are there if he opens his eyes.
Okay, and let's
sit with them.
Let's take a look at some of those people, because one may wonder why the president is so reluctant in dissolving the cabinet. And some of the conducts, some of these CSs, and I'm looking at a tweet here which is a bit disturbing from a member of the cabinet, and this is CS Moses Kuria. And he talks about the president of the Federal Republic of Madeira spent a bruising day on a whistle-stop tour of his country with stops in Herega, Kafirote, Gorano, and Kiamariga stages. Then, and you see, it's talking about his boss, the deputy president, in such a manner. Then, Bwana talked about some of the statements attributed to CS Murkomen over the weekend. And you wonder, why would the president be so reluctant to dissolve a cabinet whose shortcomings are so visible to everyone?
Well, Fred, before I attempt to make a contribution to your question, with a lot of humility, allow me to just comment on what my sister, Mumbia, said. I was really refraining myself, but she has boxed me into a corner, and I must come out. You know, human being, what is a human being? Is a mankind. The word underlined kind. You must be a mankind. Therefore, you must be different from other things that breathe, that have life. You must be different. You're man, but kind. Now, then I'm reminded that, you know, it is only a hyena that eats its own children. No other animal, leave alone human beings who are supposed to be kind, protect and take care of their children. So putting into context what my sister has said, and she has made reference to my president being a strong man. I'm really struggling to get a definition for him, given the space that my president finds himself in. Is it strength, strong, or is it evil? Using the analogy of a hyena, because the only hyena that is known to eat its own children. Otherwise, all other human beings and mankind protect and fend for their little ones. The other thing that my sister, and I was hoping that she would have brought this argument in, is that, you know, when you find yourself in a very difficult and awkward situation, the person who knows you like the back of their hand is your spouse. And most of us are like we have spouses of either gender. They are the only ones who can tell you the truth. They are the only ones who know your nakedness. They are the only ones who can face you in the eye and not call you your excellency. They will call you just William. There's something that I want to talk to you about. Can we have a moment together? So this is the time. If he's really a mankind, if he's really somebody who listens, if he's really somebody who takes advice, this is the time that you call your spouse. If your spouse is afraid of you because of who you are, and say, Mama Charlene, I have found myself in a terrible situation, in bad space. I need you to advise me. And probably that is why you saw Kibaki with all the challenges that he went through, because the two gentlemen, my two senior brothers, will tell you that not that Kibaki didn't have challenges. He had a lot of challenges. But Kibaki was insinuated by two people, by his family, who would face him and say, my husband, Emilio, in four walls. The children will say, Dad, come on, people are complaining. Then he had a set of old friends that Honorable Pogisha talked about, old friends who look at you in the eye and tell you, Emilio, and may his soul rest in peace. In this case, the old friends will say, William. But in four words, you are headed towards destruction. So I just thought that I should probably try and comment that, because I was in a corner and my sister kept on punching me in a corner. Now let me say this, in terms of, in terms of the behavior of some of these cabinet secretaries. Actually, they do not fit that space. In fact, under Chapter 6, if the President, William Ruto, was really serious, he should not even wait for, he should have dismissed some of the cabinet secretaries. Because Chapter 6 is very clear. Your behavior, both in public and in private, not in public, even in private, is under scrutiny. And we can hold you to account on how you behave. These are cabinet ministers or cabinet secretaries who are misbehaving in public. Because you see, and with a lot of respect to my former party leader, Moses Kuria, when you address your boss in the manner that Moses has addressed his boss, and the boss of the boss is silent about it, the assumption that is made is that that message is actually being delivered on your behalf. I would have expected the president to call his cabinet to order. But for me, that is not, that's a non-issue, because probably that's how the boss wants to run his government. They should not try and, and camouflage issues. The elephant in the room is corruption. They can call themselves names. They can do what they want to themselves. Let them just stop stealing public funds.
Okay. But Bonakiro, in a situation like the one facing the president, and you've been a cabinet member,
yes.
The president is already in crisis, then there's a lot of misbehavior from among members of that cabinet. In a situation like this, that does not really help the president in any way. Such a tweet about his deputy says a lot.
You know, Fred, I've always maintained the fact that the president needs two phases of communication. One is their own internal communication, such that a minister in charge of certain department does not pretend to talk about another department that is not under him. That is supposed to be what they call collective responsibility, has nothing to do with me talking about my colleague's ministry. It has something to do with we must defend each other's government, and I step in when I am required to do so. So he has failed in that internal communication. He has failed in terms of conducting affairs of the cabinet, because cabinet is supposed to be a clearinghouse for all government decisions and programs. And therefore, anything that goes to the cabinet is processed, and you have the benefit of getting a lot of information from those who are not running that particular ministry. Because when you are a minister, at times, you are boxed in by too much technical information, to the extent that you need an eye from outside to assist you to see a clear picture of you. That is one area that I think the president has failed, because one, he does not allow ministers to work as ministers. He overreaches them to the extent that he can talk to head of department. One thing that I can credit Mzee Kibaki with is that there is no time, whatever was the situation, that if there is a problem in Kari, if there was a problem in National Cereals and Produce Board, it is the minister who is called, and it's for the minister to decide which technical team is he going to take along. And when you will be briefing him, you will brief him, and if there are specific questions, your technical team will either answer directly with your concurrence or give you a note about the answer that the president does require. There he has failed, because he wants to run almost every department. The way he has been doing, even when he was deputy president, he could follow his check for insurance and talk to an officer within, let's say, national, what do you call the other one? The one now which is chief, NHIF.
NHIF.
Almost literally following the check for Amako when he was the deputy president. That information we have, because we interact with these people. The second issue he has failed to improve his communication with the public, because these statements made by Moses Kuria, Murkomen and others is a creation of him, because he must be somebody who enjoys fitina. Because the protocol is that even if your deputy president has a problem with you, what you're supposed to do, deal with him one-to-one. But the moment you encourage some other guys to talk about the deputy president, you're also undermining yourself. Because the deputy president has his own constituency, not Madira, the way they are saying. There are people who admire him now just because they have disagreed with the president. There are people who did not like him, but they like him now. There are people who don't like him, but they feel he's better than the boss. But finally, it is for the president to call his own meeting, the way Mheshimiwa Mumbia said, to ask himself, where did I go wrong? And I just want to offer him a piece of advice. These advisors, you don't need to fire them. Tell them to resign and apply for the job. Then you can select those you will retain. Dissolving the cabinet does not mean you are getting rid of the ministers. We were dissolved for 11 days, and it was the longest period that I waited in my life. And that period was good because we also did soul searching. Because there was a lot of it, and you are told, no, you are not going back to agriculture, you are going to public works. Now, public works, do I understand anything there? I don't know whether I would have understood. Tomorrow, no, you are not even in the list. So and so has taken fitina to the team that is constituting the cabinet. Eventually, when it was announced, it was a sigh of relief. He should do the same, just to create that anxiety, just for 1 week.
But that reluctance by the president to actually dissolve the cabinet says a lot.
He knows that is the problem.
There must be something that we are not seeing here, because we've heard of members of the cabinet being fired from days when we were small. President Moi, I remember, used to fire ministers on 1 o'clock news. And, but since William Ruto took over as president, he's yet to let go of even one of his cabinet ministers. Bwana Pugisio, what could be the problem? Is it like Dr. Ngaru suggests, that the president himself is held captive by some of the promises or deals he struck with some of these people?
You know, Fred, one of the things you need to remember, or the people need to remember, is that this cabinet was thrown at him. This cabinet is a donation from various parties. And he didn't have a choice for some of them. Watangula's party said, take Nakumisha and others. I mean, everybody, including every party, was giving their own person without, and that means the president did not really understand who was coming to work with him. The other reason is that the president did not care who comes anyway, because they were not going to be the ones working. He was going to be the minister in every ministry, which is very interesting. The third reason is that he established some kind of camaraderie with all of them, so that it's us. Okay, so it became us versus everybody else. It was us. So these people could actually, with impunity, do whatever they wanted. I remember the Minister for Agriculture saying, hey, what will you do to me? My boss supports me. And so that is the kind of thing. So you reach a point when you say, okay, so this is us versus everybody else. Let's do what we can do, what we must do. And that's the same reason why it's advised by the advisors to my left that you call a meeting of yourself. Call a meeting and continue to think through these things, or pray. By the way, one of the things that was very amusing was, and this is very telling, is that at the end of the Gen Z, whatever the X space, the president offered to close with prayer. You know, I mean, there are other people also who can pray, you know that, for sure. Yeah. He actually closed it with prayer. The most religious president I've ever known was actually President Moi. But there was not a single moment in cabinet or even anywhere where President Moi said, let me pray for you guys. So after that kind of thing, why would you offer to pray? I mean, even a Gen Z would have prayed. It would have been better, actually, to say, one of you pray. But so I'm just saying, this thing of trying to rally yourself up into some kind of leader in every situation, it's not helping a president. The president needs to call, and I say it again, some of his old friends, people who will not try to please him, because everybody is trying to please the president. And nobody is able to tell the president, but the situation is bad, that you're actually naked, literally. Because it is the situation calls for that kind of thing. Okay. The person will tell the president, by the way, this is going to bring you down. Okay. Unless you start thinking seriously how to deal with Kenyans today, and it's not like yesterday's Kenyans. To deal with this situation today, you must change. You must accept to change.
I'll take that as your parting shot because of time. And Bonapugiso suggests that there is room for change for the president. I do not know if you agree, Dr. Ngaru, that there is room for something that he could do to change the course of the activities we are seeing right now, as your parting shot.
I thank my colleagues because they kind of agreed with me without many words that he needs to have a meeting with himself. Before he calls the advisors and the first lady and the chairman and whoever else, he needs a meeting with himself. This will guide him on the way forward. And you know, there are many forwards from where he sits. He can reorganize himself, or he can say it is too much for me, because even surrendering is an option. Yeah. It is an option. Yeah. And he can exit grace-free. It is possible. All come out from that sitting, after sitting with elders, and give a fresh hope to the country. It is also an option. But he cannot go around the same people, the Moses Kuria, you know, throwing words at us, the disrespect. It is not going to take us anywhere. And he can only, him only, can make the first move. And he's got an option of the moves that he can take. He has got my prayers. I love my country. I love my children and my grandchildren. I don't have any other country except Kenya to call home.
Thank you. Bonakisia.
Thank you, and Mumbi has said it all, but let me say this, that as a father of the both millennials and Gen Z, I'm proud of that generation. What we failed to do, and I've apologized in the past, I apologize again on behalf of the boomers who are here, and I think the silent generation, a few of them were still alive, for failing them terribly and miserably. But what they have started, the wave they started in Kenya, the Kenyan wave, you can see it is spreading. It has spread to Uganda, Nigeria, Ghana. Mm-hmm. The wave that these children have started, it is spreading across Africa. So, hustle for you. For my president, many things have been said, and he needs a moment of reflection. But when he's reflecting, the first thing that he must reflect on is the innocent life of our children. 41 of them killed, murdered by people who are supposed to be law enforcement agencies, murdering our innocent children, 41 of them. As you reflect, my president, please remember that your hands have blood. You are the head of state, you take accountability, you take responsibility. Finally, in my closing remarks, I'm looking forward, just to build on what my sister said, I'm looking forward to a Rishi Sunak moment where our president will say, I apologize, genuine apologies to the nation, and I tender my resignation. I think he would have done this country service, and we shall remember him. We shall forget all the sins committed through commission or omission.
Okay. You seem to have missed that point of whether or not there's still a chance for him to redeem himself, probably apologize and still proceed.
You see, I'm saying, Fred, the best he can do, if he wants to be remembered, is to pack off and go home.
Wow.
But well, he can also choose to hang on to power, dissolve cabinet. We will still remember him for the sins that has been committed. But if you want, if maybe, this is my own view, if he wants us to close this chapter in a neat way, there's nothing he's missing. The only thing he'll miss is power. But he has had it. God has been very kind to him. From a very young age, he has been assistant minister, has been in leadership, deputy president, and now president. If I were him, fold, go home, and take care of Rachel.
Wow. Wanakiro.
Well, I'm not as drastic as Philip, but I would want the president to build trust. No Kenyan trusts him today. Even those he's with in the cabinet, I know they know that he's a liar.
Wow. Bwana Pogisio, do you want to add anything to that?
No.
The possibility that he could redeem himself.
It is only after he has gone through a transformation. In his current state, he cannot. And the whole reason is that he needs to be able to say, I want to detach myself from some of these guys who have clung so much to him. Some of them actually have taken him for granted because of that kind of closeness. They have taken him for granted. They speak for him when he doesn't need to be spoken for. And so it's up to him. And I think it's very important to listen, although I mean, to the advisors to my left. Listen to them.
Why are you leaving out? Me out.
Listen to these people. They are really concerned about it. But how will they get access to that person so that they can advise him? It's not possible. But finally, I also want to say this in terms of a closing statement. We love this country so much. And when your work is an impediment and you can't change, the best way is the best offer is that you exit the stage. We are all on a stage. We can exit the stage. I was very emotional, not necessarily too badly, but when I watched Sunak apologizing for people who lost because of him, he says, I'm very sorry. I owe the country an apology. He's very sorry. I mean, we reach a point like that. And by the way, I like when the president decided for the first time to give his condolences for those who died. It was like a breath of fresh air. After all those days, he had been unable to say anything about these kids who have been died. For the first time, he said, my condolences, I give my condolences to the families. That's how you should be as a leader, be vulnerable.
Okay.
Thank you.
Samuel Pogisio, a former Minister for ICT. Honorable Dr. Mombingaru, former MP, East Africa Legislative Assembly. Philip Kisia, leadership and governance expert, and a former town clerk of this great city of Nairobi, and Kipruto Rapkirwa, former agriculture minister. Our panelists this and every Monday as we look at the state of the nation. Asanteni sana for your time at TV47. Well, this will continue. This is a conversation that continues today. There's also Occupy MOH. I've seen a tweet by KMPDU saying that may not happen, but we wait to see exactly what will transpire today.